In 2004, I had been with my teacher for 6 years. And he said, I am satisfied. You're finished. You've come to the state of the self. And now I want you to open a center. He opened a center for me in Sacramento, California, in the United States. And I began to be the teacher for that center for him. And in that process, I began to discover that there was no difference between me and you. I began to be able to feel and experience where each person was on the journey up to this point and how to guide them into the next. This continued until 2007. In 2007, Guru Purnima Day in July, another thing happened. I stepped out of my individual awakened state and I became universal. I recognized that what I was, what we all are, is what's been known as Shiva or Krishna or Vishnu, that I was that was it. And in that moment, there was no guru. There was no teaching necessary. I became the total realization, the complete realization, whole and complete within itself, and I immediately notified everyone that I was done teaching, that I was no longer with Sri Atmananda, that I could not any longer be with Sri Atmananda, because there was no difference. It's just completed. That was the name of my teacher, Sri Atmananda. He's still alive here in Taravanamali. Of course, at first he does what he does. He got very angry, told everybody. At that time, he had given me the name of Siddhartha. He said, Siddhartha, his ego's been overtaken, and, everybody has to convince him to come back on track. And they all tried to do it, but I said, look, there's nothing here that I can't continue to do this. It's just no longer there. Sorry. I wish I could. I had thought I was going to spend the rest of my life serving my teacher. I was perfectly happy for the rest of my life to serve my teacher. So I did not expect this. And when it came as the tail end of a process that started when I opened the center in Sacramento in 2004. And when that center started, I started going into states that were completely different than what I had experienced before. And the nature of these states, it was so compelling and so completely gripping that I could not move. I literally couldn't breathe. I couldn't do anything. And when I would come out of it, days would have gone by. Certainly hours would have gone by. And I would come out of it not having a clue that I had been gone. Literally, I had no thirst. I had no hunger. I had no need to go to the bathroom. I had no sense of tiredness. But I didn't have anything else. I felt good, but I just felt like I came back. So when this happened, it blew me out. The next time it happened, my brother, who happened to also be assigned with my teacher, took me in his car to my teacher at the time, who was in the United States, and he said, what's happening to my brother? And my teacher looked at me disgustingly, and he said, don't worry, you don't have to go through this. It ends up that I was going into what's called samadhi. Now, I had thought I was in samadhi before. 6-8 hours of a spontaneous meditation can be called samadhi, savakapal samadhi. But this was an extraordinary effort, the extraordinary thing. The thing that happened is about every 3 days, this state would occur. And when I would come out of the state from then on, I had to reassemble my personhood. I had to learn to talk. It was like recovering from a stroke. It's like each time I had to come back. Now, this time I'm running a spiritual center, right? So when I come out, there are people saying, where have you been? Now, after some months, they got used to it. Some people, because Satyapriti was around back then. There were other people who were around back then. And these things went on with, my teacher never gave me an explanation. I had no idea what it was, but I was becoming the silence and stillness in my whole system. My thoughts stopped. The drives for life stopped. My bodily functions stopped. This went on for 3.5 years. At the end of that, this state came. And this state was the recognition that what I have become is eternal and unchanging, and that there is nothing to do. I became the Purusha. I became the silence and stillness. And what did I do? I closed up the center, handed it over to other people, and my teacher came some months later, and I sat down with him on a grassy field because he didn't want anybody in the group know he was talking to me because I'd been completely ostracized. And he said, I didn't want this, but this is what happened. And he could recognize right off the bat what it was. And he said, okay, so you have two things. I'm going to guide you on this because I've been through this process. You need to be 500 miles away from me, and you need to start a nonprofit organization, which seemed absolutely irrelevant to what the state of consciousness I came to. Are you kidding? But I could do the 500 miles away. So I ended up living in a little room above a daycare center in Olympia, Washington, on the coast of the western coast of the United States, northwest coast of the United States. And I was completely fine. The person was like gone. There was this straw dog, this empty person that would putter around here and there. Nothing missing, nothing to get, nothing to do, no sense of purpose. Very different than what you see now. It was as if it was an incubation period. And from there, people started coming. Then I began to look at, all right, well, what am I doing then? What would it be if I started a nonprofit organization? What would it be? And what I took was a quote from the Bhagavad Gita, which was why Krishna incarnates. During periods of darkness, I come again and again to strengthen the virtue, to destroy the evil, and to reestablish Dharma. And I said, of course. That's the only reason I would come. I would only come to have a job in the life. And when I would come, what would it do? It would be strengthen the virtue. That means strengthen your ability to know the truth of what you are. And destroy the darkness, well, pretty much that happens automatically when you know who you are. You begin to have this capacity to pull out of your negative story, to pull out of the habit that you've been run by. And then automatically what happens? You start living aligned with your purpose. That's your Dharma. So that's what New Dharma is about. And at this time, Satchama and I were beginning to work together because she had been in nonprofits for many years and founded the nonprofits and the rest of it. So we began to pull it together. And I guess we became a recognized nonprofit with the United States government in 2009. They did not want us to be a nonprofit. They sent us 126, or how many questions? 126 questions or 119 questions on why we should make you a nonprofit. And rather than just say, well, screw it, I used it as an opportunity to articulate exactly what it was I would be doing. And we are doing exactly that. It was a great blessing because that's exactly what's happening. Then, right around 2009, that's when I met the Sat. I can't really describe it because what showed up for me was an image that really didn't describe what it was. But something happened that showed me, in a way I can't tell you how I know, what this principle is. And it was this just sense of the scale of this creation and relationship to any one of us. The absolute insignificance. And with it, the absolute significance simultaneously.